Welcome to Idle Red Hands, a podcast from Japan about gaming and gamer life.
And welcome to the Idle Red Hands. I'm Lyle.
I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Chris.
All right. Brings the radio voice. You are in for a treat.
The radio voice doesn't have an off position. Oh, yeah.
And we're going to be talking about The Last Jedi, because no one's been talking about that.
Yeah, right?
And to start off, what do you make of the big discrepancy between the critic score and the audience score? There's certainly some conspiracy theories out there.
Yeah, well, it's confusing, surprising, other adjectives. It's not so much critical and audience score general as it is Rotten Tomatoes, which of course is one of the major websites.
Yeah.
But last I looked, maybe this morning, it was 53% audience score and 93% critic score,
Yeah.
which is an enormous discrepancy. I mean, under 60% is terrible for a movie. But the reason I say it's Rotten Tomatoes is because of a few other audience aggregation sites give it pretty good scores. Cam1 has it like up in the 90s, 95, 96%. IMDb has 7.9.
I have not seen that in my group. Certainly there's people that are fans.
Yeah.
But hey, hello. Somebody sitting here is a fan. I haven't seen like something that would warrant a 93% favorability rating. I've seen really about 50-50.
Yeah.
It seems about right to me.
Yeah, I think my friends in the States are all really positive about it, but they're also huge fanboys, I suppose, like I am.
Okay, I'm going to take issue with that word because
Yeah, I know.
it's being used in so many different ways. It's like when you saw it, you said that you fanboyed out when you watched the movie. But now I'm seeing people say that the critics are fanboys because they can't get over that it's not the Star Wars that they know from childhood.
Yeah, when I say fanboy, and I mean this in the way of my friends and myself, is that we all have strong criticisms of the movie. There were some things that I definitely didn't like about it, and same goes for my friends. Yeah. But none of those things were enough to make us dislike the movie, and part of that is just because of the whole Star Wars mythos and what is it, excitement around that.
But there's Star Wars movies you don't like.
That's true. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway.
So maybe my fanboyism has a limit. I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe a greater
it's lost all meaning for me. I don't know.
In this case, I mean a greater propensity to forgive a movie for its flaws.
Right. Okay.
I think one thing that people haven't been talking about when we're looking at these critic scores and why they're super favorable and the actual customers or fans have a much lower rating is a month or two ago, Los Angeles Times and Disney had a little bit of a fight. Did you read anything about that?
Oh.
About, they were just, they got I forget which film it was or what property it was, but Disney was just going to start denying LA Times, or maybe a specific LA Times reviewer, from attending screenings because he gave an unfavorable criticism that they didn't like. Or actually, no, I'm sorry. It wasn't about a particular piece. It was a piece written about the Disneyland properties and their relationship to the city that they're in Southern California. And because that was connected to the LA Times, Disney threatened to deny LA Times press at their shows, and then LA Times said, well, we're just going to exclude all Disney films from our critics awards. And then they just called a truce and it was all over. But I think that that's an element that exists, is that Disney's getting big enough now that they're too big to criticize. If you want to see, have access to all of those Disney properties, you're going to, or, screenings and things, you're going to have to be kind. And that's something that, video games and all industries kind of have to deal with is how much favorable criticism are they going to allow?
I think that's one of the conspiracy theories. One is that basically the critics are on Disney's something. They essentially don't want to offend Disney. I mean, that's why apparently the Marvel movies get such favorable reviews and DZ gets trashed, because people like Comic Book Resources wants to have an in with Disney. So that's one theory. Another theory is that the critics are in some sort of SJW ivory tower is what I've seen broken down, and they are out of touch with real America, and real America are the people that don't like The Last Jedi. I think there was maybe a few other ones.
There was the guy on Facebook who claimed to have used a botnet to force down the Rotten Tomatoes.
But even
thing.
Rotten Tomatoes is disputing that.
To be honest, I don't believe them, because their entire business model is based on their accuracy.
But you're going to believe some random guy on Facebook?
I'm definitely not throwing in with him, because he might just be saying that for whatever. But I don't even tentatively believe him, but I don't believe Rotten Tomatoes.
Right. like, I don't want to speculate on people's motives because there's certainly a lot of that going around. I mean, if you hate The Last Jedi, then you can't stand the white patriarchy being dismantled and you're overreacting to
you're
that.
a real American too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, honorary because I'm not from America. Or, again, like with the SJW White Tower and stuff like that. But what I would say is I think there are elements to the movie where, I guess, not art house, maybe that's not the best choice of words, more artistic choices, I guess you could say, where maybe, how do you pronounce his name? Is it Ryan? Is it just straight up Ryan?
I think it's Rian Johnson.
Okay, Rian Johnson, but spelled a little bit funny.
Yes.
Yeah, so he's kind of like his parents. Like, he can't just be straight up Ryan.
Yeah,
Got to do an I instead of a Y. But he took some risks, I'll say, and made some artistic choices, and I think the critics responded or rewarded him for making those choices and responded favorably. And even positive reviews I've read from critics have to acknowledge, for example, the pacing and the plot holes. What I don't like is the people saying, and these are just memes really, but they didn't like A Force Awakens because it was too close to A New Hope.
Yeah.
But now we give them a risky movie that's has a lot of callbacks to the original, but is fresh and new, and you still don't like it. It's like, whatever. I mean, there's not two versions of Star Wars. I mean, there's also like a third version, which maybe everybody likes. Anyway.
Sure.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
But if we were going to give it a Rotten Tomatoes score here, I think it would get 33%.
Yeah.
Now, before we get into a comprehensive review of the movie, like overall impressions, did you like it or dislike it?
I was pretty uncomfortable, through the whole movie. I was really hoping for something familiar. I think Force Awakens was so safe and so predictable. And so I wanted the kind of comfort food of that type of film. And so this really caught me off guard. The thing I guess I really admire Rian Johnson for is in this movie, nobody said, I've got a bad feeling about this. But I had several moments in the film while watching it where I said to myself, I have a bad feeling about this. So very meta.
The odds of me liking this movie are a million. How about you, Chris?
I loved it. Absolutely loved it. It was...
Absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a real roller coaster. It had some parts that I really didn't like, that I really disagreed with, through all the different parts, from the actors, what they did, from what Rian Johnson did. But I think there were also a lot of parts that were some of the best things that I've seen in movies that actually will go that far.
Wow.
And those outshone the parts that I didn't like.
I think you use that a lot because I think you called Michael Burnham from Star Trek Discovery one of the best TV characters of all time.
Probably.
Yeah.
I'm usually careful to couch it in saying in my own experience, but I probably am hyperbolic to that. Ever!
What's the best movie you ever seen? The last one I saw.
I do have a tendency to kind of do that. There was one scene that we'll get to later on where actually my jaw literally dropped while watching it. And it may have happened before, but I don't actually recall that having that physical reaction to something before. Okay. So yeah, the highs outdid the lows and ended up with big positive for me.
Okay, wow. Interesting, yeah. I thought the movie was too rushed. We really could have dragged out that scene in the second act a little bit, that chase scene. I didn't like it. I think it committed the worst sin a Star Wars movie could make, and that was to be boring. Basically, my criticism would boil down to that. I just didn't hold my interest.
Out of curiosity, where did you check out in the movie? At what point did you decide, no, I don't like this movie, I'm not in it anymore?
When Poe was saying, Hux begins with an H, I'm holding, I was like, I was close to
5 minutes in.
Like 5 minutes in.
Holy crap!
As I was like,
so the crawl didn't.
The crawl worked out okay, but So I was just like, okay, so someone is a fan of Hogan's Heroes, like they want a wacky Nazi character. Like, why is he so goofy now? Why do we have a Colonel Klink Imperial officer? So the tone just
even Rian Johnson admitted he's the comedic punching bag.
I remember even Snoke said it like that. Why do we keep a wild cur around like that? Even before the door had closed, so obviously he can hear.
Yeah, I was surprised about that because he was Hitler in Force Awakens. Like that speech giving and everything, that was really over the top. And then for him to, between films, have such a different role, I was very confused. And of course, the Poe Dameron character is very charming, and he can handle those lines okay, just like he did with Kylo Ren at the beginning of Force Awakens. But that exchange was odd, and I didn't understand what they were setting up. And so that already, I tripped a little bit there, and then I just never quite caught on to what tone he was going for.
I have to compliment your endurance then, because that's like that's like 2 hours and 20 minutes.
It was brutal. Yeah, it was.
I wasn't a big fan of that scene, but I just thought, it's the open with the Poe Dameron joke. I think this is going to be this trilogy's staple, or one of their things.
Yeah,
is hey, pose here. Now we get a joke.
But the shot of a single X-wing confronting a Star Destroyer, I was like, why is that happening? Like, why is that a thing?
I
That was
I would be.
odd.
I guess if you had no sense of history and know what a single X-wing did to the Death Star, or what a ragtag group of people did to the second Death Star, or the ragtag group of people did to the Star Killer, then yeah, maybe you might be curious what that single X-wing is going to be able to do.
Yeah, I was actually going to say the exact same thing. I mean, Star Wars is a universe in which one person makes a huge difference. So that didn't trip me up. And actually, I was surprised actually that you say that about Hux, that he was kind of a comedic thing, because I think he was portrayed as, besides Snoke, being the only capable person on the Empire side. Because we only see 3 characters in the Empire. We see Snoke, Kylo Ren, and Hux. And Snoke, well, everybody knows what happens to him.
There'll be spoilers in this.
Oh, God, yeah. And Kylo, he's too immature, too wild, and everything. Yeah, Hux is the only one that has any sense, it seems.
Yeah, but anybody that can hang up on a prank phone call, I doubt their competency. No, that's stalling
to get.
Yeah, and somebody, and he didn't even seem to get it. Like somebody told him, I believe he's trolling you, sir, or whatever the term was.
Yeah, right.
What is my Prince Albert in a can? What is that? Yeah. IP freely. Is there an IP freely? I didn't know there was an option. I didn't like it, but I want to meet Jeremy. I think when I walked into the theater, I just checked out.
Oh, man.
When I saw the crawl start, I'm like, oh, I'm out of here. I'm done.
It was the red lettering on the logo 6 months ago.
Yeah, just like that color. I mean, wow. If a logo showed you anything, it means, hey, you're going to see a lot of red in this movie.
Holy crap, yeah.
I think I definitely checked out during that chase scene with the, what are they called?
I think Fathier, F-A-T-H-I-R. I don't remember how they pronounced it.
It was Finn and Rose riding these Faviers, and I was gone. I was like looking at my watch, wondering how much longer I had to see this movie.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, and a broader thing, like when there is a scene that kind of totally takes me out, where I start to think about just the inclusion of these kind of chase scenes in movies in general. When that was going on, not only did I not like that scene, but it reminded me of that Attack of a Clone scene with Ben Kenobi, and he's racing around. But then I started to think, why do directors think an overly long scene of people running through a town or something like that, or running through a room, would be interesting?
Hear, hear.
Because we've seen it over and over and over again, and it's not offering anything new. So why did you make that choice? Like, there's some choices he made that I didn't personally like, but I can understand why he made. But I thought that was like, who is that going to appease?
Not to go too tangential, but I wonder if it has something to do with CG, because now it's possible to make these really long, incredible chase scenes that go on forever and ever.
No, I think so. It's like justifying like that list of 1,000, CG artists. It's like, what are they going to do? They did all the shit battles. Yeah, so come up with something. Something has to fall down, and or
that chase scene reminded me of just one of those obscenely long Peter Jackson combat scenes in Lord of the Rings. It just goes on.
No, yeah, exactly. You think, well, what are people supposed to get out of this?
Yeah, what's the point?
Yeah, so that's when I pretty much checked out. So with that, what we'll do is walk you through what we thought of the movie, like what we liked, what we didn't like, questions we have, what we think is going to happen in the future. Yeah.
Yep.
And also talking about how we understand fans' reactions, both positive and negative, to particular choices that Rian Johnson made. So we'll start with the opening. I guess we've already heard about what Jeremy thought about the crank call. But did you find that funny? Or did you just think, oh, he's being funny?
I gave it a nasal laugh, a little kind of thing, but that's about as much.
I just gave you a nasal laugh.
Okay, good and the bad. I thought that the idea was absurd, but it fits with Star Wars. The way that their attack plan fell apart just seemed kind of contrived, a little weird, a little forced. But at the same time, I really loved the scene and how it kind of brought up a vision of an old World War II movie. And this is something that I'm going to be saying a lot. I think there were a lot of callbacks to old World War II style films. I mean, everyone was acting just like a bombardier. They were looking down a scope and saying, I see it below me, even though obviously you've got huge windows and radar all over the place. But yeah, and I thought that was exciting and interesting and a really cool choice by Rian Johnson. Though, like I said, there were some criticisms about how it got pulled together.
Yeah. I didn't mind him racing around. I wasn't a fan of the crank call. For one thing, because it went on too long. And I guess he was stalling, but I mean, I think the movie did a lot of that, like stalling.
Not only stalling, but stalling, sitting perfectly still. That was the thing that I was like. So we always see X-wings approaching, and so when he was like sweeping the surface of the ship and knocking out all the cannons, okay, that was Star Wars. But that shot where the X-wing is just sitting still in the Star Destroyer.
And
I was like,
you don't object to bombers in space when there's
well,
zero
no,
gravity?
but I thought that was an interesting point that Chris made though with that theming, because that does stick to the kind of the World War II theming of the original Star Wars, of the dogfights, and so it does not make a heck of a lot of sense like in any sort of physics or science, but that is the feeling of Star Wars.
It makes sense in the Star Wars physics.
Yeah, right. Shells being dropped out of
Yeah. I didn't mind the bombing scene. Yeah, you watch it fall apart so spectacularly, and you wondered, like, why would you put your bomber so close together if one going off is going to take out the three around it?
Yeah.
I thought the scene with the gunner and she gets the bomb, that was okay. Yeah. That dreadnought was pretty fragile, probably more fragile than a Death Star with that massive hole.
I know, right?
Yeah, nothing really made sense in that scene, but it was fine. It was visually interesting that you kind of went with it. And yeah, it was Star Wars, and that is like one man or woman is going to take on a big capital ship. And
right.
I don't know why they keep building these capital ships because they all just get taken out by a bomber. But in that scene, and this is when you start to get pulled away from the movie, and I normally don't talk in a movie. I turned to Jeremy and said, why are the Death Stars just sitting there?
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
They seem to be watching the Dreadnought just get destroyed, but more importantly, they were watching the Rebel ships escape instead of actually doing something. And the Star Destroyers could take out that Rebel fleet on their own. They don't need the actual easily, Dreadnought. Yeah. And I know what people are saying is like, oh, well, they had the plan because they contract them through hyperspace. But the thing is, they didn't need to do that. They could have just taken them out there.
Yeah, there's a couple points at which you can just say why the Empire made such poor choices. There's no reason for the extended chase later on. The Empire could have easily handled that, but yeah, there it is. So
they had to justify the R&D budget for the tracking through hyperspace.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, they're going to lose their funding.
Hey, here it is. Why don't we jump in front of them? But we'll get to that point later on.
So at that point, I was still okay with the movie.
I never checked out, so I was okay.
I was hanging in there. I mean, I was visibly shaken, I think, after that,
Sweating.
after the prank call. But then I got knocked out completely a little bit later, slightly later, moments later.
Well, then, by all means, at which point?
It was, the scene that they had built up for 2 years since the last movie, the lightsaber handoff.
Yeah.
That tone was shocking. I almost threw up my arms physically at that point. It's like, that is insane. That choice is just completely insane. And I was trying to hang in there. Okay, so Luke is doing a, crazy Yoda, like what Yoda did on Dagobah. Like, I'm going to act all wacky and be testing you and see. And it just never got better. There was that whole extended scene. So as soon as Luke was acting wacky, I was giving up. And there was a point, though, where he had the line, like Rey is in the little hut or whatever, and he says, "Who are you?" Or maybe that's when she's looking at the text, and he says, "Who are you?" And I thought, okay, now we get serious Jedi Master, fallen Jedi Master Luke, and we didn't. We still didn't. It got wacky and kind of downplaying the gravitas or whatever he should have had as that figure. I mean, he was weirdly messed up and really broken. So then the movie after that never recovered.
Really?
Me. Yeah.
Interesting. Actually, I was also very surprised by that, and I don't want to go as far as to say put off, but in that same grain.
By what?
When Rey handed Luke the lightsaber and he just chucked it over his shoulder and walked away.
Right.
Yeah, that is weird. A strange reaction. And I like the direction that Rian Johnson went with to make him a sarcastic old man. I think that was a good decision, but I think they carried it a bit too far at a few points to where it almost got a little bit silly. But that said, I really liked what they did with Luke's character. I liked that they broke him and put him on the island like that so that he could have a redemption story.
Right.
And by the end of it, I was in love with Luke. Actually, I think I like Luke's character more now than I ever have before.
Yeah. But yeah, when he threw the lightsaber, you're like, yeah, I didn't expect that. But, you're going to be like this.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to start subverting tropes. And this would be a criticism I have of Johnson. He just never stopped with the twists.
Yeah, I agree.
And it came to the point that they weren't twists anymore. It was like watching an M. Night Shyamalan movie where you're just, okay, where's the twist? Where's the twist? Except M. Night Shyamalan saves it for the end. But here, like, Johnson was like, and another twist, and another twist. You think this is going to happen? No. But there was too much, and then you just not get overwhelmed by the twist, but I think you just get tired of them. There's a few points in the movie where I think the twist would have worked better if there had been less of them, and like they would have been worthwhile twists to have. Luke throwing the lightsaber might have been one of them. In that, that just shows you like Luke's changed. But I certainly get the criticism people have is the Luke of, I'm going to save my friends, or my father is still in Darth Vader, so I can save him. They don't see that Luke quitting.
He didn't have a choice, though. I mean, he was written in by J.J. Abrams. Luke has isolated himself for 10 plus years on an island, hidden from every star chart, with no contact to anybody. He knows about the First Order. He knows about all that other stuff.
No, absolutely. I'm not laying this at Johnson's feet. Because, you have to justify it somehow.
Right.
And I think the seed had already been planted, like you said, in The Force Awakens. So I'm not saying who's to blame. And I don't really mind. If a story's good and the character's done a 180, what do I care if the story is good? The problem is I didn't like the story. I wasn't really outraged that this is not the Luke from my childhood. I actually didn't really have a strong reaction. Watching him go around, it wasn't as funny as Yoda, but I could see it was trying to be like Yoda. And the thing is, just to go back to the Poe Dameron joke, if it had been funny and I had laughed, then I wouldn't have minded that, because that's a little humor.
I like the idea, the concept. I like what they did with Luke as a character.
The green milk, you like that?
No, and
the milking.
That was horrible.
that was a bit.
It's pretty graphic.
It was pretty graphic. Who was that for?
Well,
maybe that was
the internet.
Maybe that was Rian Johnson trying to do comedy. He hasn't done a comedy movie before, so maybe that's not his forte. I don't know, just speculation. But no, actually, one of my main criticisms of the movie is the same as yours, Lyle, that it was too long and it dragged on scenes more than it had to be. And I think what they did with Luke was perfectly fine for me, but there was too much of it.
No, I mean, that's a very fair criticism. And I would say that criticism applies to a lot of movies these days where the directors are given, I think, way too much control.
Dear God, yes.
So they're producing 2.5 hour and 3 hour movies.
Right,
I mean, Brian Johnson says there's a 3 hour cut. Oh, that'd be dreadful.
Right? I want to see a 1 hour cut, please.
I mean, people complained that Justice League was only 2 hours, and you watch Justice League, and it was like that was snappy. It goes from scene to scene to scene to scene to scene. We don't have an extended, long green milk. Milk some things,
Every movie has one very strong critic, and that's my bladder. I'm sorry, he does not compromise. He's small and angry. Hitchcock said it, the movie length has to be based on the human bladder. And if they're going to do this, they need to bring back intermissions.
Definitely. And that's so surprising how abusive that is to the actual movie theaters themselves. The business of they're only making money selling popcorn and things, and if they show the movie one less time, that's that many more concessions that aren't going to be bought.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
makes it that
if
much
you
harder.
put an intermission, then they can set up another concession.
That would be very kind.
I'm done my popcorn by the end of the previews. I'd probably go out and get another pop and another popcorn if I knew I didn't have to.
Miss something.
Because sometimes I'll go into a movie if I've bought like the large pop and I'm like, okay, which scene am I going to run out of?
It's like I'm sitting there and it comes in the set, so I got it, and it's like I don't really want to drink this because I know I'm going to miss 5 minutes of the movie at some point.
Before The Last Jedi, and I didn't have to pee. I'm sure people were really wondering about that.
Spoiler!
I managed to make it through the whole movie without going to the bathroom, but I was thinking I think Mag's character, that one with the big eyes, or at least the big glasses, I said, as soon as I see her, that's going to be when I go to the bathroom. I didn't have to go, but I did see her, and
you just went anyway.
No, absolutely. If you put an intermission, they can sell double the concessions. Maybe not double, but they at least like 25% more concessions.
Right.
I think people would go back to the movie like a little bit refreshed. And then you come back and you're like, okay, I'm ready to see the end of the space chase.
And then horse races.
Like, oh, gosh, put the intermission here. Put the intermission while this is happening.
Right. This part of the movie sucks.
The lights come on. It's just like you're welcome to go out and get something else. Those diehards, you want to stay, there you go.
Actually, that could be fun, Instead of an intermission, just put like a little mini film or something in there that if people who want to stay can watch.
Oh yeah. I mean, people love the end credits scene. Why not? Intermission scene, and then people now sit through the intermission because they don't want to miss. Like Nick Fury talking to the latest superhero, like talking to the X-Men.
We've got interviews.
We've got the Avengers X initiative. Oh, great. So Luke Skywalker.
Yes, sorry.
Not only Luke Skywalker. I mean, as much as I didn't particularly care for him or that storyline, I don't want to knock Mark Hamill. It was okay. I didn't really like the characterization, but he was doing a good job doing it. But I guess the choices with Rey, and again, I don't mind that character. I don't love the character. She does what she's supposed to do in that movie, and it's the same as what Luke did in the original trilogy. They're the key protagonist that has the thankless job of driving the story forward, or the main story forward. and she's okay in that. But just like the mirror scene yeah, and again, hey, do we need all these chase scenes? And when that mirror scene come up, and like, what do directors think? Is we want to see these? We know it's not real, and it's in the mind kind of scene, and the psychological scenes. They don't need to be that long.
Yeah.
So we just watch her, and it's like, hey, there's a lot of her. When you first see it, it's like, oh, that's kind of cool, like watching all of these rays. And
yeah, the snap thing was nifty.
Yeah, but it's also like watching a wave in a football game.
Mm-hmm.
Her training with the lightsaber, I guess you have to show that, but at the end of the day, it's her just almost hitting a rock for several minutes.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I like that. It was because she sliced the rock and it crushed those people's carts. That I laughed at that.
No, they screwed up, because that should have been a funny joke, but the caretakers, they didn't have the correct reaction. And she didn't have much of a reaction too. So it was like a funny thing, but I guess that's Johnson subverting our
She should have been like, sorry, or something like that.
Yeah, and Johnson was probably like, you know what they're going to expect? They're going to expect caretakers to give a look, so they're not going to give a look. And she's going to give like a cringy thing, so she's not going to do that.
You know what they're going to expect here? A quality reaation from the actor. Well, I'm not going to give him that.
Yeah, it was like that green milk thing. And it's like, I'm going to go with that take. Like, and Mark Hamill's like, no, I was just doing the Joker from the Batman stuff. I was just joking. That was just like a throwaway take. I thought we were just doing the lighting.
Print it!
That's the one. We're going with that. Yeah, so that was long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good, but too long.
Okay.
In my opinion.
And I think an important thing about when he's subverting, some of these tropes and giving us these twists is you have to let then the audience get their balance back. Like a comedian tells an offensive joke on stage and kind of everyone disconnects and like, wow, that guy's too much, and then kind of brings you back. He doesn't do that. So that's something that was a little frustrating for me, is like I was waiting for, okay, so what does this mean, and what's the consequence of this? What's the effect? And it just never, we never got to that. You never really felt why he did that, like, justifying that within the...
I wonder if that was the problem with the jokes. I mean, the original Star Wars had jokes. The Force Awakens had jokes. I mean, humor's been throughout, except for the prequels, maybe. It's been a part of Star Wars all the way through. But people seem to have reacted a bit more. And I think part of the problem was it wasn't so much the jokes he was doing, but just the fact, well, maybe they weren't that funny, but where they were being placed. Mm-hmm. So it was like, what tone are you going for?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Jokes in Star Wars is, every time a Star Wars movie comes out, there's an argument online about how it shouldn't have jokes. It was too jokey to be serious. And then people say Star Wars has always had jokes. And
well, it's always had C-3PO.
Yeah. I agree.
Who was underused in The Last Jedi.
And
so was R2-D2.
Yeah.
Well, R2-D2 was there just to be meta and showing, if you give people too much fan service with the little Princess Leia.
See,
it was Johnson's commentary.
I actually really liked that scene.
Oh, I thought that scene was good too.
That was very meaningful for me.
Yeah.
Brought a tear to my eye.
He had that motive. He didn't just want to bring a tear to your eye. He wanted to bring a tear to your eye and then stick a knife in your back. It's like, see what this nostalgia does.
Did either of you get choked up? So was that a scene where you were like physically actually like, whoa?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
No, I just thought, oh, that's a good scene. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, I could see the moments that I should have, or I almost wanted to like feel something. And I was just, is my heart dead? Have I totally separated myself?
It is.
No, because my heart is not dead, because I watched Wonder Woman recently. And I loved
baby.
But have you seen Wonder Woman?
I have not.
Oh, okay. Because the ending, I'm like,
yeah,
this is how you do a love story. This is the blueprint. This is the template. Yeah. Because there was some criticism of getting off topic, the Wonder Woman, but it's a really good movie. But the Chris Pine character, they said he had too much, I guess you would say, agency, or too much. He did too much in the movie for a sidekick. And I think that's the wrong lesson, is to complain the man sidekick had a lot to do. The lesson really there is that all sidekicks should have gotten as meaty of a role as he did.
I'll have to watch it.
It's really good. It's really good. We're still going back to Luke, and see, that's how boring it is. Like, even giving the review of it, where it's like, I'd rather talk about something. So let's jump to the end of the hyperspace escape, and we find out it's not an escape, because they can now track through hyperspace. And apparently there was a bit of an Easter egg in Rogue One.
Yes, yeah, I saw that too.
One of the files that Jyn, she's looking through the Death Star plans, and one of them says hyperspace tracking.
Yes.
So they had hyperspace tracking.
Yeah.
And that was, I guess, a surprise. So then we get into them attacking, and we have like Kylo Ren. One scene that I did like where he attacks, again, this is when I was talking about he should have taken some of the twists back so that some of them could have more impact. And when he bombs the hangar,
Yeah.
so that Poe Dameron can't get on the X-wing and have what you would expect is the fighter battle.
Yeah.
Right. So I was like, that makes a lot of sense. Why wouldn't you bomb the hangar?
Absolutely. And I thought that was one of the big tropes that he subverted in the movie, in that this is the point at which the hero goes in and saves people. And
Absolutely, yeah. I appreciate that twist. I just got tired of him as he just kept twisting and twisting and twisting. Yeah. He was like Chubby Checker. There are like 80-year-old people laughing right now. Yeah, so I like that. I liked this scene where he was going to fire a missile at the extremely vulnerable bridge on the capital ships.
Oh my God.
So a TIE fighter did it for him. Yeah.
It's nice that they finally got the rebels on that, because you remember in Jedi when a fighter crashed through the bridge.
Don't remember that.
Star Destroyer.
Don't remember. Minor scene. Yeah, crashed in.
Yeah. You don't what?
Of course I remember
I was
that.
Say,
It's one of the big scenes.
What are you talking about? But just how vulnerable the Star Destroyers were now a rebel.
I checked out of Return of the Jedi when I saw Jabba the Hutt. I was out of there.
You're absolutely right. They should stop building capital ships. They're made of matchsticks.
Yeah, exactly. But it turns out they have a bridge. And this is actually a great thing about BattleTech. I haven't mentioned BattleTech in ages, but BattleTech is the bridges of those ships are actually inside. Like they're not on the outer hull, but they're actually buried deep within the ship because, hey, makes sense.
No reason not to.
Yeah.
Right.
So I guess they did have a backup bridge, which was a bit more shielded.
Well, that was smart of them.
Yeah. So that's when Carrie Fisher died.
Yes. Ish.
Oh, sorry. Princess Leia died. Sorry, and that was non-intentional. I said that and realized, that was probably a bad thing.
That was an interesting joke.
But when I watched, I was like, wow, that was
sudden.
Yeah, no, that was like a lot of foresight on that one to give her that stunning death scene.
Yeah.
And she actually ends up dying afterwards. I'm like, whoa, that's uncanny. And then they brought her back to life, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of that scene?
It's been described as the Mary Poppins scene. Leia Poppins.
Yeah.
I think because we knew too much, we knew that actor was physically dead. It creeped me out, It's because that was like that was a CG version of her, and or at least the eyes, what they were doing. It was very affected, and it made me uncomfortable because of what I knew, and then so that's why I started to question. Okay, so how much did they know, and what did they change about this because of the actual actor's death? Because you felt uncomfortable, and it was strange. I mean, you wanted her to continue to be in the story. You want that character to keep existing, and that felt strange because of what you already knew. It's like, wow, well, what are they doing? Because showing her death in that film, I think they decided they can't do, or it was impossible to do because of, and I don't know what they're doing for the third film, but because the actress is not there anymore, it's a weird decision to make. Having her die on screen.
Okay. Yeah. It didn't bother me at all. It just kind of, she's a Skywalker. Yeah, I suppose that makes sense. Okay. The reason I ask, though, is some of my friends in America who've seen it, they really reacted strongly. They hated that scene.
I can see that. Yeah, I can definitely see the hate. I didn't hate it watching it. I didn't like it. They just keep adding to the Force. It's whatever convenience. It's about as powerful as they need it for the plot.
Yeah.
So
speed of plot.
If people were to say, no, that's justified because we needed to show that Princess Leia's Force abilities are more than we realized, I think the scene with Kylo Ren, it seemed like she had reached out to him, or he reaches out to her, and there was that connection.
Yeah.
I thought that was enough to show that she did have some Force powers.
Yeah.
Because later on, she doesn't use any Force powers or anything, so it's not like she needs to be some sort of Force savant.
Right.
And we need to unlock that. I guess they just wanted to show she can do it somewhat. But really, I mean, they just needed to take her out of the movie for a bit so they could do something else. And this is one criticism I have with the story, and because it leads to a lot of plot holes and problems, is that it's very much backwards planned. So it's not that, okay, this happens and the characters are organically kind of going to do that. The way some people write novels is, I think George R. Martin is more of this. He does an outline, but then he kind of lets the characters take the story in the direction that they were going to take it because they come alive.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, it's like, I want to have this twist. So how do I get this twist? And then you just go backwards and reverse engineer to create the scenario or the situation that is going to lead to a credible enough setup for that twist. And I just think you could have taken her out. Like, she could have been knocked out. The bomb and something hits, and some of them get sucked out, but she doesn't, but so traumatic that she's passed out, and then she's out. out of the scene or out of Act 2 until she comes back.
Yeah,
You don't need the Leia Poppins thing.
That's exactly what I was going to say. What didn't bother me, but it wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
She couldn't have turned around and done just a little pull and got Admiral Akbar back in the ship.
That was going to be the next question. What did you guys think of the Akbar controversy, as it were?
Because he didn't sniff out the trap. It's a trap. Sorry, what's the controversy?
Oh, just people are up in arms around the internet. I know, go figure. That Admiral Akbar had next to zero lines and he died suddenly pretty much off screen. He was on the bridge, but you didn't see him die. And also he could have taken the place of Admiral Holdo. Okay, Holdo. Why didn't they use Akbar for that? Blah, blah, blah. I honestly don't care. It didn't bother me. It would have been nice. Also, the actor died before filming. Yeah, so I don't know if it was out of respect that they didn't give him a scene or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't care.
I was like, oh, okay, well, he's dead. I think there's a lot of Star Wars characters people know that actually didn't do a lot in the movies because they know them through the action figures. And I suppose Admiral Akbar did have that iconic line, "It's a trap." Yeah. And he's a meme. But yeah, he's not a big character. So they have characters that people know that you can get rid of and people are going to be shocked, but actually aren't going to affect the story at all.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to one-up this. Why wasn't there a role for Lando?
Rian Johnson was thinking about whether or not to have Lando in the place of DJ, the Benicio del Toro character. And he thought that, one thing, Lando wouldn't betray them. And then people kind of know Lando's morality. Yeah. Whereas with DJ, he can play with the morality. And again, for the sake of a twist, there's no Lando. He needs the morally ambiguous character.
That's weird, because I can totally see Lando doing that.
Yeah.
No, he wouldn't.
Or for, I mean, just to have him as a cameo, just so you're acknowledging his contribution, is have him be the target, the person that Maz references, not say his name, just look for that flower. He's sitting at that table instead of some random greaseball guy that was there. Yeah. So at least like we got to see Billy D. Williams, 30 years later.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because if they had him only for that, then people would go, why?
Exactly.
Just have Lando for...
Oh, right.
And then I think people would have been more outraged, especially because of all the bait and switches that are in this movie. They would have think, oh, we even saw him and now you give me Benicio del Toro. And Benicio del Toro is a fine actor, but I mean, DJ's no Lando.
Did you think so?
Can I keep this up for the movie? Nope. I guess you're going to lose that stutter a lot.
Yeah. I saw a big uproar about that. Why wasn't there Lando? They had a casino. That's where Lando would be. Blah blah blah. Yeah.
But would he? Because he'd already joined the rebellion by Return of the Jedi. So is he going to just waste his time in a casino?
Yeah.
Maybe like following Han.
Why
like
wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he fight with the Resistance? Yeah. And where did the Millennium Falcon? I mean, Lando must be dead because the Millennium Falcon was like on that desert Jakar.
Yeah. That's possible, yeah. The thing is, joining the Resistance, sure, but I don't know. He still seems to be Lando, still a carouser and gambler. Seeing him in a casino doesn't seem out of character at all. Very possible.
Yeah. So he wasn't in it.
Yeah. The thing, we have Luke, Leia, Han, Chewie, all this stuff. I don't need all the other characters. It's a new movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as a farewell, I would have liked to see that. And I would have liked to see just like a little frozen Admiral Akbar. That would have been fine. Just a little fish stick floating out there. Like, okay, we'll have to let him go. Yeah. I was surprised because that would have been easy.
Yeah, a cameo would be nice. Give him a nice send-off to it. But honestly, I don't need it. Maybe that's cold of me. Maybe I'm not a real Star Wars fan after all, but I don't know.
But Nib Nub or whatever, that guy with the big jowls that was his co-pilot. He was there. He was like sitting around.
He was. Yeah. Oh, I didn't see him.
Yeah. No, he doesn't say anything.
Yeah. I missed that.
Yeah. He's just, maybe he was thinking, where is Lando? Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, he was in The Force Awakens too. Or maybe he's not.
Or just his race.
One of those.
Race,
they all look alike. That's why.
Don't go there.
Slow burn on that one.
From there, I think the movie just kind of derailed. We have the setup. So Princess Leia is out.
Oh, okay.
She's demoted Poe, but now they go, oh, Princess Leia's out, so we'll have somebody else in command. And then Poe Dameron's like, oh, I guess I'll be in command. And it's Vice Admiral Holdo. But you're like, there's only 400 of you.
Hold up. Sorry.
And one of them is a Vice Admiral. You thought you were going to jump the queue and be put in charge of the fleet. The fleet that consists of like 4 ships.
Actually, I liked that decision. I liked that they demoted Poe and gave him a bit of a comeuppance there.
Yeah, but an admiral, a Vice Admiral still outranks a commander.
Yeah. Don't you mean captain?
No,
I'm saying even if he had retained his previous rank,
right,
he still shouldn't have had the expectation that he would have taken over the fleet because there was a Vice Admiral. And then I also didn't buy, he's the top pilot and it's a very, very small resistance.
Yeah.
So he had never met an admiral? It's not that that made sense for the story. They just needed to have this conflict with this Holdo character. But the conflict didn't make sense. For one thing, why wouldn't she tell him the plan? There was no reason for that. So it's like, do you have a plan? Well, and she doesn't say anything, but I mean, then he's like, you're gassing up or you're powering up these transports. Is that your plan? And she still doesn't say anything.
See, that doesn't bother me. Look at it this way. She doesn't like him
But then
very
she
much.
says she likes him afterward.
At the end, yeah. But when she's
him.
she's face to face with him, she's trying to show that she doesn't. I don't know. She's putting on a face for him. But regardless, does a vice admiral have duty to inform a captain?
You have a resistance of 400 people. He is the top pilot that you have.
And he
asks a question. You're not going to answer the question.
And she also knows that he has a tendency.
Obviously, some other people know about the plan.
Yeah. And she also knows that he has a tendency to run wild and do things. And it can probably pretty easily guess that he won't like the plan.
But he did like the plan.
No, he didn't.
No, later on he says, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Because his plan didn't work. He failed. See, that was the thing with Poe. He got demoted at the beginning for taking wild chances.
Yeah.
That was turning the hero complex thing on its head. It was another trope subversion.
No, I get it. I get it. Yeah, it was also like the Maverick was wrong at the end.
Right,
like,
right. Then that's the thing. Like that's part of his character development. Like him being cut out of the hero point.
Yeah, no, I understand. Like, and maybe that's probably like Rian Johnson's thinking, I'm giving him an arc, but I also want to have some twists here. I want to have the twist when they see the Maverick go off and do his or her plan.
Yeah.
That's going to work. And the kind of crusty person in charge is going to be wrong. But no, it's going to be the other way, although she turns out to be wrong in the end as well. That's fine to have that twist. I'm not opposed to the twist. I'm not one of those people that's in love with Poe Dameron. I thought he was like an okay character at best.
Yeah.
But, okay, you got to take out Princess Leia. Then we got to accept the idea that he's never met this Vice Admiral before. Then we got to accept the idea that she won't tell him anything. So it's creating this conflict that really shouldn't have been there in the beginning. Like, so he's kind of feeling like he was overlooked to be in command of the fleet, but he shouldn't have thought that when you find out it's a vice admiral. He also should have been aware that there was a vice admiral in the fleet because there's 400 people in the resistance. But I think that was a mistake to mention how many people are in the resistance. It's really a mistake to mention numbers.
Yeah, especially in Star Wars, yeah.
I watched a really good TV series called Godless. It's a Western, but they keep mentioning the number of bad guys.
Yeah, right.
And it's something like 30 in his gang.
Yeah.
But then you watch all these people getting shot and you're like, still 30? Really? Really? They have that many guys left? Really? I think they'd all be dead. Like, you got to leave it a mystery.
Yeah.
So there's still the resistance. It's a ragtag small group of people. Got it. But they give us too much information. Now you're like 400 people. 400 people, and you wouldn't have met that person. I don't believe.
And I wasn't crazy about seeing more infighting in the rebellion resistance because I think I'd had plenty of that after Rogue One, like finding out how big a mess the Rebel Alliance was and how nobody agreed and they barely got anything done. To see that happen again in a mutiny on a ship,
I saw somebody suggest online, I thought it was actually a really cool idea, that they should have put a mole on the Rebel ship, and that would be a good reason as to why Holdo would have to be careful with who she tells about information. I thought that would make a lot of sense. And if you did that, you could cut out the whole casino thing.
Right.
One thing about the casino thing, it was really odd. I mean, we get into about Rey's training, not training, on the Jedi Island, where that seems to be a progression of days, but it keeps cutting into this slow chase, which is hours.
Yeah.
Did you say 40 hours or something at the beginning?
I don't remember.
Again, providing more information than you need, but that's less than 2 days. And then she seems to have been on that island longer than 2 days.
Yeah.
Then they go to this casino, and you're like, are you guys going to get back in time? It just seems 6 hours, really? Is that
okay? Kind of a few things rolled together. I didn't like the casinos thing at all. I think it should have been cut from the movie,
right?
Entirely. I think they could handle the person online who suggested a mole. I think would be a great way to handle that instead, and you don't have to just go in this long, drawn out crap.
Right. But then Finn and Rose have nothing to do.
Right.
Oh well, I'm sorry. I like Finn's character. I actually quite liked Rose, even though she wasn't very developed. But yeah, I don't need him. But also, that said, the chase, the slow chase, that also reminded me of a World War II film. Like somebody who's in a town that's being bombed, kind of that constant pressure. And I really, really wish they'd explored that. Show like people on the ship who are kind of starting to crack under the pressure of just these laser blasts hitting them.
More
constantly.
like a submarine chase then.
Yeah. I think that could have been really good in the story.
I don't know. You watched Battlestar Galactica, the TV series?
Yeah.
the first episode after the pilot movie
Yeah,
was
yeah.
an example of that done very, very well.
Yes.
And people who haven't seen it, the episode's called 33 Minutes, I believe.
I don't remember. Sorry.
But it's something like that because every 33 minutes the Cylons find them. So it's really, really tense to see if they can escape, and like every jump and just that tension in that 33 minutes before they can calculate the next jump. So
nobody can sleep. Everybody's on edge. It's,
yeah. Or maybe it takes 33 minutes to calculate. It's been a while since I watched it. To calculate a jump, and the Cylons keep finding them.
Yeah.
Now that was a tense chase.
And I wish they'd have done that with Star Wars.
Yeah, it didn't seem tense at all. Even you watch this medical frigate get destroyed, and I guess they evacuated everybody out there except for that one guy who was there. But yeah, we didn't really feel any loss.
Yeah.
Well, that was the whole thing with the editing between kind of the parallel action, like when they were jumping between where action was. It didn't seem to like hold the tension. It seemed to be like, oh, this is still going on. Like it seemed to like extend how long things were taking. It's like, how many hours were they doing this? Right. It confused me as far as not having that same, Star Wars. You keep building and, oh, wow, the lightsaber battle's still going. The, battle in space is still going. It didn't do that.
It didn't have the momentum at that point in the story. We're still
probably
in the second act. So I don't think that they would have been able to do the building tension, but they could have used the gaps in time to further that I suppose the tension of being under fire.
Right, yeah.
Kind of thing. Like it gets back to them and how much time has passed. People are really starting to freak out now in the situation.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, there could have been a nice arc with Poe instead of, getting your blasters on stun and shooting everybody. But him coming to terms with the fact he doesn't have an X-Wing anymore.
Yeah.
And I did like that part.
Yeah.
And he's been demoted. Now he's got to work with this Holdo, and he's chafing, and maybe it's not Star Wars action, but neither is what they gave us. So you might as well try to do something really different. They've got conflicting ideas and there's argument. Would have given Laura Dern more to do. I mean, she's a very capable actress, and she really did not do a heck of a lot. And don't give me that her last scene was anything. It was nothing.
She did good with what she had, but I agree she didn't have enough.
Yeah, give her more to do. And if you want to have Carrie Fisher come in to save the day, then there are almost a mutiny or almost something is going to happen, and we're feeling that tension through acting. And then Carrie Fisher comes in to soothe things. Yeah, or maybe Poe does hate the transport idea and he thinks it's something and he just doesn't believe Holdo or whatever. But there's other things that they could have done. The resource management thing, you kind of drop that in. I mean, after it's the 8th movie and you drop in that now we got to care about resources. Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay. They actually tease it at the beginning because they go, the munitions crate, just leave it. It's the first time they've ever mentioned munitions.
Yeah,
so
lasers have ammo.
So I guess they kind of teased it there. And also, they're like, pull back the TIE fighters because we won't be able to support it because somehow the Star Destroyers are super slow.
Yeah. Well,
what?
That makes sense. They're big and they're slow. I mean, it doesn't actually make sense in real physics, but it makes sense in World War II physics that Star Wars uses.
But usually, like you use the World War II physics, like you have the big capital ships, like the battleships, but then they have massive range with their guns, but they don't have any range on their guns.
And also, this is what I said before. Why don't they have lots of Star Destroyers? You have one rebel ship, jump in front of them. Hey, problem solved.
Why, if you can do short jumps, why wouldn't they just do short jump?
If you do long jumps, jump far away, then jump in front of them.
Well, since you mentioned that, I was going to say this for later, but the scale is just absent in this movie. Everything seems very, very, very small. You look at, here's our chance to knock out the Resistance. We'll send 4 Star Destroyers and Dreadnought. That's it. I'm guessing the First Order has more, but the First Order seems really rinky-dink. And we talk about the casino. When you watch, like, Tatooine is this backwater planet, but we still see a presence of stormtroopers. Yeah. And we see in other planets, we see a stormtrooper presence in these places. We don't see a stormtrooper presence in this casino, which is supposed to be the 1%. Which all the military-industrial complex likes to gamble on that. So why wouldn't you protect it with stormtroopers? Yeah. Like, what are the first? Do they control anything? Like, establish a scale. So, does it matter in the galaxy if they take out the Resistance or if they take out the First Order? Does anybody care?
Well, for that matter, if they take out the lead planet of the Republic, was that all that there is in the Republic?
Yeah.
And, this might be a cultural thing. I don't really have a strong comment on it. But at work, I work with all Japanese people, and they all said that as a positive. They said that a lot of the Star Wars movies up until now have been these huge galactic spanning things. But this time the story was really small and really focused and really easy to follow. And they all said they liked that about it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I was surprised that the length of time, and I guess that's not really a big issue, but it was one small event, one length and smaller scale, and that was surprising because I was expecting this to really sprawl out.
Oh, and it's going to be even smaller in the next movie because you have what, a dozen people?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's your resistance. They're the spark.
Oh,
I'm
the
jumping
spark,
ahead.
that's
I'm not going to jump ahead because I got some things to say about this spark. So yeah, I wasn't a fan. I guess none of us were really fans of the casino.
Yeah.
Oh, for me though, one point about the casino that was interesting when they were focusing on, I guess we're going to talk about the horse racing animal, the saddest cat horse things in the world. But a couple of things like that, like Finn walking around with his leaking medical suit and the saving the animals, like Rose's kind of opinion of how important it is to save animals, felt like they were trying to focus down to like a tween girl audience for me, or like not necessarily girls, but a tween audience that had funny concerns. That joke of him walking around with a leaking suit, a 5-year-old would have found hysterical, but it didn't come across as funny. And that girls want to save animals thing, that Rose's big motivation, and that's the true victory here as we save these animals, felt very for young kids.
I'm going to argue with you on that, in that I don't think her motivation was to save the animals because they're animals. It's because she was raised in a similar kind of circumstances to the kids who were taking care of them. And
okay.
she said that she'd always wanted to see them racing live. So she actually is familiar with the animals.
Yeah, that line, though, it seemed like they were aiming for younger kids. And that was just odd in what we were doing before. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I think the porgies.
Porgs?
Yeah.
Porgs? Maybe that was for younger kids.
Maybe. I read something, I don't know if it's true or not, but it said that there were so many puffins around on the island that it was easier to just dub them over with some kind of CG animal than it was to edit them all out. And that was the inspiration for the porgs.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't mind that. But I didn't really mind the Ewoks.
Yeah.
I thought it was silly that they were beating the stormtroopers, but it didn't cause me to care. And something when people originally watched Return of the Jedi, they didn't care either.
No, I never have.
This is kind of like a belated criticism of Ewoks and George Lucas destroying things.
Well, what about the Chewbacca scene where he had roasted one of these porgs and he was about to eat it?
I laughed.
And they were
It was funny.
they were sad and making him feel guilty. And well, maybe I shouldn't eat him. I think the thing they were sad about was the murder that took place prior to cooking.
And I thought the same thing.
It was like,
Yeah, but it spoiled his appetite. That was okay.
And actually, it was in a much later scene, but when Chewbacca gets up there, he's like, ah, and the little porg is like, ah!
Yeah.
I laughed at that too. I thought it was good. It made me giggle.
I didn't laugh at them, but I could understand if people laughed at them. Like when the porg I think the Millennium Falcon goes really fast and it gets thrown up against the window.
Uh-huh.
I can see that. It's a good scene.
Well, you know what? The thing about porgs being the new cute thing like that, it totally worked. There was a Japanese woman sitting next to me. Every time the porgs were on screen, she was, kawaii!
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and they don't have to adapt them at all to make them Funko Pop figures because they've got those big black dead eyes already.
Yep.
So, yeah, no translation there.
So we're fans of the porg.
Are we?
Well, I didn't hate him, and a lot of people seem to like him, so same as the Ewoks.
Yeah.
Yeah, much more harmless than I thought. But the Millennium Falcon is infested with those things now because they just have that one shot. Oh, they're already nesting.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Well, obviously they were there for like 40 hours.
yeah. Yeah, right.
And Chewbacca does not do much, eh?
Nah, but he does good in all his scenes. So yeah, backing up the casino. Overall, I think this is the third time I said it. It was a waste.
I think people are like, got it. You guys didn't like the casino. We haven't really talked about Ren though. Kylo Ren. We just mentioned him, but the big thing is Kylo Ren and Rey. How did you like that dynamic?
Wow, man, that chest.
Unless you had more to say. Unless you had more to say about the casino.
I was just gonna say that the messages that they played in the casino were cool. Capitalism, balance of the good and the bad, new generation of Jedi, all good stuff, but still too much. Cut it out.
I think there's a criticism, or some people are saying that the fanboys or the real America are objecting to the diversity in Star Wars, but I haven't seen that. But I do see people objecting to the anti-1% message or the anti-capitalism message. Like that's where they object to more. And I haven't seen one criticism about the ethnicities that are in it. I think I've seen one criticism where they say that the strong women are coming at the expense of the men, that they had to dumb down or make the men weak in order for the women to be strong.
I don't see that at all, but right on.
I'm just relating the criticism that I've seen.
No, you're wrong.
But that seems to keep coming up, Mad Max, and just every time you have a strong male and a strong female character, the man's just not strong enough because the woman looks strong. So it seems to, just be this recurring thing where you can't see those characters in the same film.
Yeah, people might not be used to seeing so many women in being parts, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. I have seen that dynamic before on TV and stuff, but Mad Max, no. Star Wars, no.
Mm-hmm, right. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. It keeps coming up, and I just don't like how divisive and political every one of these silly pop culture things has to become. People are drawing their battle lines along.
So Kylo Ren.
Kylo Ren. So was the Force communication between Kylo Ren and Rey lazy writing, or was it kind of a necessary to show a deeper connection between?
I'll be more on the latter. It was necessary to show a deeper connection between it. For the hand wave, he explained things. I guess Snoke is powerful enough and said he was able to tap into them and connect them somehow. Mm-hmm. The fact that he can't find her or whatever, that's fine. Yeah, I was fine with that. It allowed them to interact in a way where you can understand them not fighting straight away because they can't, so they have to talk and then try to make a connection. So you could see kind of a romance going on. I noticed there wasn't a quid pro quo. We see a topless Kylo Ren. We don't see. I'm just saying, equal.
There are only 4 pairs of boobs in Star Wars. Yeah, I agree. Also, I think that it was a necessary thing in order to build the characterization, because if you had them meet really in any other way, they would have fought or would have been privy to other people who would have changed their opinions on each other. Yeah, hand-wavy thing with Snoke, it wasn't necessary, I think. They've fought before, they've met before, and the Force is mysterious, so that's really all one needs. But I didn't bristle against Snoke having done it. I actually thought that was kind of cool. And I think both of the actors played it really, really well. I liked how they played off each other.
If I do have one criticism, it's just the fact that Rey feels so deeply, because she didn't really know anybody. Like, she didn't know Han Solo, and then she watches him die, and now she's all weepy about Han Solo.
Really? That was one of my favorite parts, actually. And I thought
she's weepy?
Yeah. And how she connected to Han Solo and now Luke too quickly, and how Kylo Ren chides her about it. It says, "You're always looking for your father."
Yeah.
In Han Solo.
No, I get the thing. It was,
I thought that was powerful.
About her parents and stuff like that. Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah.
I was seeing every time Rey said, "I'm lost and I don't know what to do," I was seeing that as Rian Johnson in his writing of the script, completely failing and having a loss of confidence. And I was hoping that was.
I forgot to notice. Like, he wrote that in. Yeah, but about the parents thing, I didn't care after Force Awakens about the parents and who they were. I also didn't care who Snoke was. Zero interest, but a lot of people did.
Yeah.
I think the Snoke thing, when you find out what happens to Snoke, I think it's the internet's fault. Their own fault. Because they're the ones that kind of grabbed onto something that wasn't really being given to them and tried to run with, who is it? Is it Darth Sidious? Is it this? Is it that? But with A Force Awakens, they really just hammered home, like, her parents. So to then go, they're nobody. And I understand they actually could be somebody, and that's just Kylo Ren saying it.
Blah, blah,
I could
blah.
see somebody who was invested in that feeling a bit cheated.
Yeah.
It would be like, the people that watch Lost. Like,
Oh, God,
what's going on? And then watching the season finale, or the series finale, and then going, really? That was the answer?
I suppose, but you said it, and I thought it was a really good comment for it. How would you feel with that news if you had been one of the people who'd been speculating for 2 years on it? Though, honestly, I was. I am one of those people. But I actually like the decision to make her parents nobodies, because I think Star Wars has too many legacies, too many dynasties in it. The Skywalkers, the Palpatine, that stuff like that. Palpatine was only one guy, but
The legacy of one. Well, they really only have the Skywalkers.
Yeah. But I like that she's from nowhere, that she is a nobody. I think that was a cool twist on what too many people were expecting from it. And it probably was another Rian Johnson saying, hey, twist. But I liked it.
But it wasn't just because of the prequels that we've got this, okay, the Force sensitive have the special blood, and now it's a genetic thing. Like, that wasn't in the original trilogy. That wasn't really a thing. I mean, this was just this family, this guy's kids, were surprised, oh, you're related to Darth Vader. But the chosen one and all that, those ideas were introduced in the prequels, and I don't think anybody was really comfortable with that. So we can kind of forget about that because these are sequels to that original trilogy that weren't really talking about this being a bloodline.
I think Rian Johnson probably feels the same way because when he went through that whole scene, the Force isn't a power the Jedi have.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine with her just manifesting the Force powers on her own.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of tapped her. The Force was drawn to her for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying I think it was a bit cheap for the people, like to set it up that much in the first movie and then go, hey, they're nobody.
Yeah.
Then just don't say that because we didn't need those scenes in A Force Awakens, like her thinking about her parents and stuff like that.
Yeah. So now we have 2 empty J.J. Abrams mystery boxes from this movie. Totally empty.
Yes. So about Snoke. So we had some lines.
Mm-hmm.
1 or 2.
Yeah.
And we saw his true scale.
Yeah.
He had a really big head in that first, on the bridge of,
Yeah.
When that head first appeared, I was like, wow, he can use Force powers all the way across the galaxy. And by the end of the movie, it's like, it's nothing.
Yeah.
What did you think of Snoke?
Snoke himself or the twist?
Both the character and how the character was used.
That was actually one of my favorite parts of the movie.
Okay.
Absolutely loved it. I thought he played it really well, and it felt like Palpatine all over again in that it was a character who was evil and absolutely reveled in being evil. He seemed to really enjoy just being bad as possible. That was cool. Yeah, I bought that he was evil. He was great. And the way that he died, that's fantastic. I loved it. I love the twist because you expect, just like the first trilogy, and you know that it's going to be a trilogy of movies, you expect him to be the big bad and to die in the third movie. And to kill him off in the second was great. And the way they did it, too, was they telegraphed it beforehand.
Yeah, a lot.
A lot. But that's the best part of it, in my opinion, in that the twist isn't when the lightsaber is ignited and he's cut in half. The twist is when Kylo starts turning his saber in his hand. So Snoke says Kylo was questioning himself. He was full of doubt, but now he's filled with resolve. And when he says that at first, you're thinking he's talking about Rey. He's going to kill his enemy. And then I know him. I can see in his mind. I see him now getting his blade, turning it around, and in one hand he's turning around his regular lightsaber, the other hand he's turning the lightsaber that's on Snoke's throne. That's the point at which you realize, oh crap, he's not actually talking about killing Rey. He's talking about killing Snoke himself. And then he ignites it, and I mean, by then you know what he's going to do, but it's still, wow, that happened, amazing.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think, it was telegraphed so much that when it happened, it wasn't like, wow, that happened. It was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, the twist wasn't when he killed him. The twist was a few seconds before that, and I thought it was magnificent.
Okay.
Yeah, his name, it was uncomfortable even from A Force Awakens to hear established characters say his name. That sounded so bizarre because I thought it was an odd choice. So I wasn't crazy about that character, but they did redeem him as a good villain. I mean, he loved the color red, but other than that, I think he was scary. They didn't do anything amazing with his level of power. Like he was just kind of twisting Rey around and hitting her with the lightsaber. It's just so that shot from the trailer where Rey is suspended and she's screaming, I was expecting him to have some really horrific force power, that something that we were going to see not have manifested before, that was really uncomfortable, or so his power wasn't amazing. And then being killed in that way, I was like, he didn't feel that powerful. I was hoping that they were going to keep a really good scale, but he was, like you're saying, he was scary and one of those characters that was happy to be evil. And I liked how that.
Interesting that you say that, because when I was watching that scene, I actually was surprised at how powerful they'd made him in the Force.
Oh, yeah.
Up to that point in the movie, he's got the strongest telekinetic powers that we've seen in the movies. I mean, we have Yoda lifting the X-Wing, of course, but until that point, it shows, actually not until that point, a little earlier on, but it shows the Force as being very ethereal. And in this movie, and in The Force Awakens as well, the Force gets really, pardon the word, forceful. In that it hits like a fist as opposed to kind of a gentle thing. Even when Vader was choking people's necks, it was still kind of like a quiet assassination, as it were. But this one, he's actually lifting people and throwing them around, which you rarely see. You see Force pushes, but to actually hold, suspend somebody up and start punching around with the Force, that's something that hasn't been done, but hasn't been done that gratuitously.
Interesting.
In my opinion.
Yeah, right. Well, I thought just with Kylo Ren in Force Awakens, his torturing of Poe had like that was another level of force powers. We're like, wow, and he's like torturing his mind. We'd only seen kind of physical affecting, but I was expecting it to him to be more of a torturer, and just it being physical and her. I don't know. It come across a little slapsticky, in some ways.
Star Wars has a lot of that they're just powers just happen to occur when the situation. It's the rule of cool. If it looks awesome on the screen, then it's okay. So I'm pretty forgiving when it comes to like new kinds of things. I didn't like the Kylo stopping the blaster bolt, because that's always kind of been the thing. Like the Force doesn't affect energy, and that's why they use lightsabers and things. But all right, I'll buy it because it's cool.
No, I didn't think about it when I was watching the scene, but when they're fighting the elite Praetorian Guard, the red guys. Yeah. The guys that look like they're out of Kurosawa Akira movie.
I thought they looked like they were built out of milk cartons.
I mean, I know you have to have that action scene, but why wouldn't they just kneel to Kylo Ren? Because he's killed the Supreme Lord. Right. And there's a thing I think is forgivable. Like if it is a plot hole, or it's not a plot hole, it's just a plot choice. Yeah. But there, I'm just watching the scene. Yeah. I'm not thinking about that. But I'm thinking about now, the second in command has just killed the first in command. What do you have to gain by killing the second in command?
Yeah. This is raw speculation because I hadn't thought about it until you just mentioned it now. But maybe they were loyal to Snoke and not the Supreme Leader. And also at that point, Kylo hadn't taken on the mantle of Supreme Leader yet. Even Rey didn't know that. So.
And I mean, they certainly played up the samurai angle there.
A bit much.
Very subtly. So of course, like a samurai with them would, well, not really in history, but we kind of have the idea that they would, like the 47 Ronin, they would fight to the end to avenge their master.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. No, that was just an aside. The fight scene, that was pretty cool. Yeah. We didn't really see them fight in the original trilogy. So I think people were anxious to see that in live action. I think we've seen it in other places.
Yeah. The wacky multitude of weapons was a bit much, I thought.
Yeah.
I didn't mind that.
It'll be good in the video games, though. It's going to be really good.
They've kind of de-emphasized the lightsaber as this all-powerful melee weapon because the First Order stormtroopers have that
baton thing.
Baton thing, which can fight with a lightsaber instead of getting cut in half.
Yeah, the same thing, they introduced it in the prequels as well.
Yeah.
Those kind of sticks that could do it.
Sure, yeah.
So, that's same thing, rule of cool. When there needs to be something.
So when I watched those weapons, I thought, it was cool enough, sure.
Yeah. And somebody made a point in this movie, there was never a clash of two lightsabers. Like how they set things up, there wasn't a lightsaber fight in this movie. People had them drawn, and at the end Luke is dodging one, and Rey and Kylo never go at it. They fight over a lightsaber, but they don't fight with lightsabers. That was odd. I guess it's like the twist, the too many lightsabers in the prequels, and now we have no lightsaber battles.
I didn't notice that. That's pretty cool. One thing just about this scene, it was beautiful, and I'm going to be saying this a lot from this point on. The way that they set up with the lit walls in the background and the characters in the foreground, especially that shot that they used over and over in the trailer with Kylo picking up his lightsaber with the red background. Everything was flattened into it. It really looked like a painting. It was absolutely beautiful. Yeah, Ryan outdid himself in the cinematography.
Ryan, eh?
Yeah. Solo and Ryan.
First name basis.
Yeah, he outdid himself with the visuals. It was a beautiful movie.
I've been wondering lately, and this was after, because we had seen Justice League previous to this and now Force Awakens, how much the 3D, because IMAX 3D is, kind of a very standard way to show these big blockbuster films now, and how much that's changing composition and cinematography, because there are a lot of the scenes, like foregrounded scenes, like things where the focus is very central, and you see a character, and then there's a huge amount of depth in the shots, and that serves the 3D really well. Yeah, that was just something that occurred to me, because we're seeing new types of frame composition. I'm like, are they still have that in mind, or are they still thinking about it? Yeah.
I don't know. So then we move on to Act 3. They find out that their plan's been foiled. Rose and Finn come back. Rose and Finn's tracking plan failed because DJ betrays them. And then we have the end of Act 2, where the Holdo sacrifices herself. And a couple of things about that is why did she need to stay? She wasn't doing anything on the ship until she had to turn it around. So they could have just left the ship floating up. And, a capital ship can be crewed by one person. 2, if they can do that with the hyperdrives, why wouldn't the Resistance just have... You don't even need kamikaze pilots. You just need to have remote-controlled ships with hyperdrive. Even the X-Wing has hyperdrive. So they can just hyperdrive all of these ships or missiles into the First Order's capital ships and destroy them.
How in universe do you want to go with the answer?
Okay, go on.
Okay.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. You're right. It doesn't make any sense why nobody uses this yet. So following is all complete rationalization. So take that with a grain of salt. This might be a viable thing, but in order for it to work, you need a ship with enough mass relative to your target to be able to do significant damage to it. That means you need some kind of capital-sized ship if you want to do severely damage something like a Star Destroyer, which is not good for the Resistance because they don't have that many ships. They need all the ships for going around the galaxy and doing things like that. Also, maybe it is a viable tactic, and that's why up until this point, you never see more than 1 or 2 Star Destroyers. Because if they're in line with each other, then there's this big danger of light speed jump blowing everything up.
Yeah, but you don't have to put them next to each other.
Right. If they're in a line, it blows up things behind them.
No, but they can be in the same location without actually being in a line.
Wow,
there's 3D
you've
space.
shot a hole in my rationalization. Yeah. In the expanded universe, the Empire at one point experiments with that, missiles that just hyperspace into things. I don't remember why they stopped using it. You can make up reasons for it, but there isn't any actual good reason why nobody does this.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was a beautiful shot. I mean, that silence and just that, the kind of, sliver through the,
Did it remind you guys of anime?
A little bit, yeah, because of it slowed, just like everything kind of, that slow motion.
Stopped, like it's basically one frame and everything stopped. But that was the scene in which my jaw dropped. I mean,
oh, was it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's weird. Like I knew it was coming. They tell it right before when they said she's going to jump to light speed. I'm like, you're going to do that. I knew it way ahead of time. But when they pulled it off, the shot was so beautiful. I was,
okay. Yeah. Sure. No, I get it. I
actually got chills right now, and sure. Man, you're killing me.
I know. I get why somebody would love that. It's one of those things where I was already out of the movie.
Yeah, I was. At that point, I was begging, please give me something, to get back into and to hold on to. And that shot was like, oh wow, we haven't seen that scale and that. Also, Force Awakens had that where they have some artistic shots, some beautifully composed artistic shot. And there were a few in here, and that was definitely one of those striking shots that is not really a Star Wars thing. That's a very new kind of thing that Star Wars has had.
Yeah. All right, so they go down on the planet.
Yep.
After that striking shot, move our jaws back.
There's nowhere to go past it.
Yeah. So they go onto the planet, and then there's another scene where it was for the sake of having a twist, because those big blast doors, Leia's standing there and going, here they come, let's close the doors. And I'm like, why didn't you just close them right away? Why would you stand there? You're clearly capable of seeing without looking outside. You have the screens and that. But it was just there so that we have a race to the shuttle, who we think is Kylo Ren. And then it's Rose and Finn, and they pop up. I remember going, yeah, I didn't think it was you two, but really, I was already going, why wasn't this door closed to begin with? It was just done so we can have this tense scene. So, so they did that. And then, but I did like the red sand.
That was, the whole planet side scene. Like, sorry, I don't want to go on and on about the beauty of it, but it was gorgeous. The color, the composition for it was great.
But again, it would seem like a small scale thing. I mean, they attack with those skimmers that have maybe a dozen of them that didn't seem to have any weapons. And there are a dozen in a line, and they're the Resistance. And their line was about as wide as the First Order line. Of attackers. So again, the scale is, you said your Japanese coworkers love that, but to me it would just make everything seem real small potatoes.
They said scale of the story, maybe not scale of that attack specifically, but
so I mean, why wouldn't you come in with overwhelming force, especially when you're dragging like this big cannon? Kind of ridiculous, but all right.
You've got ships in orbit with probably bigger cannons.
We're dragging it so we can maybe take it out, but we need to invert the trope where you've got the individual sacrificing themselves for the many, so we have the person saving the individual and endangering the many. That do that, and you can just see Rian Johnson go, they're gonna expect this, and I'm just gonna little twist it, blow their minds, and you're just like, oh, come on, dude,
pull the salt out from under them.
Like we didn't actually think Finn was gonna die. Like, you killed off Snoke, but
that actually, I was wondering then, because I thought that exact thing. Well, if they killed Snoke, are they gonna kill Finn? Because Johnson seemed to say nothing is sacred in this movie.
Right.
He didn't, because at the end of it, who do you got? You got Poe, Leia, Rey, Chewbacca.
But that's at the end of it. You don't know how it's going to end up until that point.
I don't know. You really thought any of them were in danger?
I wasn't sure who was going to survive.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't have that same feeling.
Okay.
but I didn't think Finn was in danger for a second. I didn't think Poe was in danger.
I think I was questioning myself. Are they really going to kill Finn?
No, it would have been like killing Han Solo.
Oh, you mean like in the original movies?
Right.
In the original movies,
Okay.
yeah.
I was like,
In this one.
didn't they?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. In the original movies, it would have been killing. Like
never do a thing
It would
like
have
that.
been killing one of the main three.
Yeah. So visually, that planet with the sand, with the
Salt.
salt
Come on, dude. Salt.
salt on top of the red.
We had
It's
the
like,
salt
whoa.
troopers, I guess. They looked a lot like snow troopers.
Right. Yeah, with the salt on top of the kind of red sand. So when we're not at that point yet, but when they fire on Luke, the first thing you see is all this red just fly up, and it's just like, wow, did they just do that?
That was awesome.
That was all dirt, right? That was just the sand underneath, or was that just viscera? That was just Jedi viscera. Yeah.
So about that whole Luke Phantom thing.
Yeah.
I didn't say it, but other people have noticed about the dice. That was solid until it wasn't.
Yeah.
So the Force dice.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I didn't mind that. You know, Luke comes in, he does his thing, which is very similar to Ben Kenobi.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. It's odd, actually. I'm surprised that there's less controversy than I would have expected about it. In that was a pretty shocking escalation of a Force ability.
Oh yeah.
But nobody seems to mind. It's weird how much that can alter the reality of Star Wars in the same way almost that the light speed attack can. One seems to bother people and one doesn't seem to. Maybe it's because the Force is a mysterious power. It's kind of, both of them seem surprising to me. I accept both, but I'm surprised that one
Yeah,
of those
well,
people
a
are
couple things. Maybe it's not as unbalancing because he really doesn't do much. It's astral projection.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he doesn't really do much. So it's not like he was there throwing at-ats, or I don't think they're called that. They're called something else because it's got looks like gorillas or something, but throwing them around.
Yeah.
Also, I'm just guessing here, but the people that didn't like Luke's characterization would have been the ones most likely to complain about a strange manifestation of the Force, or it being different from previous movies.
Yeah.
But there we had Luke being a hero. So it kind of wins them over and mollifies them a bit. So they see Luke acting the way they wanted Luke to act from the beginning.
Yeah.
So they were kind of fine with how he got there. Yeah. That's me speculating. I didn't mind it. Yeah.
Oh, see, I loved it. That was really cool because he's always been the hero of Star Wars. It's up to debate how heroic he was, but that they brought him that low in the beginning where he had given up and all that stuff, that they can ramp back up, makes the ending much more powerful, I thought. And I really, really enjoyed it. It was great. And the visuals in it were really striking. The new AT-AT, or whatever they're called, design, the way that they built them so that their legs sit slightly apart when they were lined up behind Kylo and Luke like that, they just looked so menacing. Like, it looked like their shoulders were hunched and they're just like spoiling to jump in to fight. When Kylo went and sliced at Luke that first time and his saber looked like it did, then it cut to his feet where he skid across the sand and left this bright red streak across the screen. And I was like, oh, it was so like a Kurosawa movie. And I thought that that's when he'd actually struck Luke, but then looking back, it was gorgeous. It's beautiful cinematography.
Yeah, it was strange though. They had the scene of the kids. You know, he had become a legend, and they're playing out that scene with their little toys, and that legend is totally based on a lie. You know, like everybody believes he was there and he did that, and it was just a Force projection. So that's a little odd if they're going to keep using that that is inspiring the next generation of the Resistance.
Which is kind of funny because in A Force Awakens, everybody forgot the Force or the Millennium Falcon and all these other things in the legend, and then something that was witnessed by so few people is now the spark for the rebellion.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, they somehow know the story of this, but they forgot about the whole original trilogy story, at least in this galaxy far, far away. Like, they forget about the Force. What, the Force? What is that? Explain the Force to me again, because no one was going to bring that up.
Yeah, if you don't have VHS or Laserdisc, though, you're not going to see the original trilogy and understand anything about the Force. So I think that was the problem.
Exactly.
Format wars.
And then, it was the callback to the C-3PO has that joke about the odds.
Yeah.
But it was funny. He's making the odds of us finding a way out, and then there's a big, massive tunnel. And you're like, well, I think that would have been the first place you would have looked, is the big, massive tunnel. You know, there's like 54,000 different routes through here, but let's start with the big one.
Yeah. Or well, the thing with me is how long have you been in here that you've been able to determine all of the locations that quickly? Come on, man. But,
come on, C-3PO.
You know, to be honest, I've had enough of C-3PO since like Jedi. I don't need any more C-3PO.
Really? Okay. Yeah. I like C-3PO.
I know. He's such a popular character, but you know what? It was Clone Wars, Attack of the Clones, that did it for me. When he went through the droid factory and it was like a big video game level, at that point it's just like, no more.
That wasn't C-3PO's fault. That was the choice of the director.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
I don't fault the actor.
So, yeah, and then it ended.
Well, and what an end. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're ending with they're happy because they're going to be the spark for the rebellion.
Really?
The spark that lights the flame.
They seem to be happy that they were surviving.
Well, they seem to be pretty casually
spark of
happy.
life.
It ended like at the end of an 80s TV show where they're all like kind of paired up, just having a laugh.
Pauses, freeze frame.
Yeah. Somebody cracks a joke. Well, I guess we found one of those 1 in 54,000 routes, didn't we, 3PO?
I bet you're wondering how I got here.
Roll credits. Yeah. Wow. Actually, there was a roll credits moment where it was like The Last Jedi. I'm like, roll credits. Did I just misunderstand that? Didn't they seem to think that they're going to do something? And that's what the kid was. Like the kids were emphasizing the fact that they actually did something that was going to really start a rebellion throughout the galaxy. It's not going to be a resistance anymore. It's going to be a rebellion.
I disagree, actually.
Okay, so sorry, why was that kid playing with the broom then?
It had nothing to do with the battle on the salt planet. I almost said ice planet. I didn't see that.
Not necessarily that, but just the kind of the sacrifice of the resistance.
Yeah.
In that.
No. Well, okay, maybe the kid picking up the broom.
Yeah.
I saw as him having been affected by Rose and Finn. That's it. I don't think he knew anything about the resistance beyond that, aside from maybe some stories from it. And that whole "we are the spark," that to me that felt like future tense. We have to keep going because we're the only thing that's going to break the First Order.
Okay, well, maybe I misunderstood that, but I sensed
maybe
that they'd reached the point that they were the spark that was going to light the flame, which made me wonder, why didn't destroying the Star Killer spark that flame?
Yeah, the way I read it, and again, I could also be wrong in this, is that's just them believing in themselves. That's their hopes.
Yeah.
We're all that's here to take down the First Order. And it's not that we're going to start this flame, but maybe we have to start this fire.
But you weren't able to start it for the whole other time.
Well, that's it. Rebellions live on hope.
Sure, yeah.
So we talked about the scene in the kind of throne room with Ren and Kylo, but the thing that the only trope that wasn't subverted in this whole movie was the join me and together, and she denies, like everyone has ever denied, we're not going to do this together. And that would have been maybe something that could have kept me with this movie and made me curious about what the third movie would be. If Rey somehow thinks, well, I can save Kylo, and I can, if they did join, if she did concede and say, well, together we can figure this out, and had some kind of uneasy truce or some kind of bizarre, relationship we hadn't seen before in Star Wars that carried into the third movie, that would have been much more interesting, or kind of kept me. But how they did end it with the boy with the broomstick was like, I don't even care what's happening next.
See, actually, I saw it kind of the opposite way, in that I thought that they did subvert that trope, in that when Darth Vader had his chance, he turned to good in the end. Right? But Kylo is the opposite. When he kills Snoke, he doesn't turn to good. He actually takes up his thing. He uses it to gain more power.
But he's doing that specific thing, like, join me, and I was just like, okay, do something different with this. But ends up she just disappears.
His entire life, he's been trying to be Darth Vader. He's been trying to live up to his grandfather. And at that point, when he's actually stopped trying, when he's become himself, as it were, that's when he takes on that mantle. That's what I thought. It was kind of like the involuntary passover into becoming the evil that he's always wanted to be.
And I guess we didn't see Ren deny him because the ship was exploding. And she just said, don't do this. And then, we cut to unconsciousness.
Exactly. But
yeah. But I wanted to, how are they going to get out of this? How are they going to, where's this going to go? And there was nothing in what happened in this movie that made me think, where's this going to go? And just like, okay, yeah, you've taken it all away.
See, I'm wondering if Kylo Ren is actually salvageable, or if he's going to become the greater villain that he always wanted to be. Maybe not always wanted to be, though.
Yeah, what did you think about going way back, but part of the motivation for Luke Skywalker to check out for 10 years is he tried to kill Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like something that Luke Skywalker would do.
You said that in a message we were discussing it online earlier, and I kind of disagree. in that.
And you said that in the message online.
Yes.
That you just
Can we read that message now?
Well, we had a pretty good argument about it, but the thing is, you're absolutely right that a big part of Luke's motivation was saving Vader. You could say actually his central motivation, maybe, and saving his friends. That is a big part of his character, but another big part is Luke being emotional and impulsive. And you see that in a few different places, like when Ben and Yoda both tell him, no, you have to wait. If you go to the Emperor now, you're endangering everything, your whole rebellion. He says, I have to go anyway. And his motivation is to save his friends, but that's still being impulsive. Another part, when he's fighting with Vader on the Death Star, and Vader is teasing him about Leia, he jumps out and starts hammering on it. When he gives into his hate as the Emperor is pushing him, and he nearly kills Darth Vader. And you'll notice when he nearly kills Darth Vader, he looks down at his robot hand and stops himself. Right. He does the exact same thing when he's going to kill Ben Solo. He has a moment of impulsiveness. He gets up his lightsaber, then he looks at his robot hand and doesn't. And if it had been continued, you can theorize maybe he would have tried to save him in holding with his character, or maybe not. I don't know. Yeah. Initially, I think you're right, but also I don't see it being out of character for him.
Well, there's a difference between being impulsive to go save your friends, or when you're facing somebody who is an antagonist and is the second in command of an empire that's killed like thousands or millions of people. And then they sound like they're going to go after your sister, to then go a little berserk, to sneaking up to your nephew's bed, who hadn't at that point actually done anything, and then standing over them and to cut him down with a lightsaber. I mean, certainly there's impulsive, and there is premeditated murder, which that would have been.
You're right.
Some people say, he has to fall and fail so spectacularly to warrant going and becoming a hermit for 10 years. But I think there was other ways they could have done the failure. Just the fact that Kylo Ren turned to the dark side, which I think was what most people are expecting, is the reason why he's isolated himself is because he feels so guilty that Kylo Ren turned to the dark side, even though he was under his tutelage. Yeah. Which I think would have been sufficient. But then we had to have the fact that he almost killed Kylo Ren. So going back to the question, do you think they're going to make Kylo Ren salvageable? Probably. And one of the reasons is they showed that maybe Luke was part of the catalyst to turn him towards the dark side. Yeah. So it's not really his fault. Yeah. So he has someone else to blame.
Yeah. You're right. And I could argue with that, but I shouldn't. In that Luke mentioned that he had done some things and that he was sensing this darkness in him. And when he looked into his mind, he saw that it was darker than he could have imagined. Snoke was buried in there. But that's just a rationalization. One of the things they say about cinema is you show it, you don't tell it. And in that sense, they told us, they didn't show us. And I think that's one of the reasons why it couldn't have carried any weight. So
yeah, I think you could have believed that if they kind of portrayed Luke as tortured by the return of the dark side, or his fight against the dark side, because they have that well on the island that's this dark place, and if that was the reason that he was there, and he was like, just being kind of mentally consumed by, being the last person to be able to fight against this return of this dark power, then him being paranoid or having like a crazy overreaction would have made a lot more sense for him.
They could have played up the Skywalker curse. I'm making that up. I don't know if there's a Skywalker curse. But they could have played up the fact that there is a part of, just like there was a part of Anakin that could easily go to the dark side. Yeah. The reason why Luke isolated himself is because he felt the pull to the dark side himself.
That's brilliant. Yeah. That's so good, because the whole one of the whole big themes of the thing was about the movie was about balance. So that would have been brilliant.
Yeah. And he does that, and then Kylo Ren feels a little bit abandoned, and maybe you could have even had an apprentice to Luke, not Kylo Ren, but sort of a second in command or some junior Jedi masters or whatever, and then they all get slaughtered because Luke wanted to isolate himself from all the Jedi so he doesn't corrupt them, and that actually backfired. So now he doesn't know what to do because he made a wrong decision, but he thought it was for the right reasons. And now Kylo Ren feels abandoned by Luke, so he's not going to respond to him. Because I always thought it was strange in The Force Awakens, if he worships Darth Vader, but the only stories, or the big story that Luke would have told about Darth Vader to Kylo Ren is a story of redemption. Is that he was a good man and is able to conquer the dark side, so he would have made the light side seem that much more powerful than the dark side.
Yeah, but Snoke was in there, and Snoke probably told him different stories.
Sure, but
that's never explained.
But again, if you had taken Luke Skywalker away as an influence because he abandoned Kylo Ren, because he was worried about his own feelings, then that would explain why Kylo Ren would be so corruptible. Anyway,
we're gonna mention Yoda.
Oh, God. Yeah, sure.
Or maybe not. Is he worth mentioning?
I guess it was kind of clever. What he does say is she has everything that. What's the line? There's nothing in there that she needs,
doesn't possess,
or that she doesn't already
yeah,
possess,
right.
and then you find out she has the book.
So he knew she stole them already. Like
Yep.
he was like, yeah,
He's
she's a
Force
little
Ghost.
thief. Yeah, but he was all wacky. Like he wasn't stoic, and he came in all like, "Hi."
A lot of people love that though. They're saying that they missed the kind of jovial Yoda that was in the first one. Yeah, I didn't know Call Lightning was now a Force power too. Go figure. I guess Cast Lightning. So. I thought it was a little out of character for Yoda to be that silly, because being silly was a part that Yoda was playing when he was trying to suss Luke out.
Right.
He got more serious afterwards, not as much as they did in the prequels. A lightened Yoda, but sitting on the ground kicking his legs.
Yeah, I don't recall Force Ghost Yoda being silly.
I thought he was a bit silly because he was sitting there, he was giggling in it, and then Luke ran in and was thrown out by a fireball, and he fell onto his back and kicked his legs. And
No, sorry. I don't mean in The Last Jedi. I mean
up till that
in
point.
Return of the Jedi, for
Same deal.
example.
Same deal.
I would buy what you're saying, that it was part he was playing.
Yeah, but that said, he did have some good lines. That "We are what they overcome." That is a good line. I liked it.
Yeah.
Of course, it made sense that Yoda was a mess too, because Luke had already been kind of like, "What is he doing? What's going on?
Maybe
Why is he
it was
fishing like that?"
hallucination.
Yeah, right.
What's with you and the green milk?
Are we going to see Mark Hamill as a Force Ghost in 9th movie?
Undoubtedly.
Oh yeah, I think so.
I liked it when Luke gave up after the tree was fully on fire, and he sat down next to Yoda, and they had like a bit of camaraderie there. I thought that was kind of sweet.
Right. Yeah.
Anything else we're forgetting? Because there's like a 7-hour movie, so there's got to be something in there.
I think
where
this is
it's
a 7-hour review. Are you excited about the 9th movie?
like, I loved it so. Yeah.
Yeah, I have zero reason. I mean, maybe Disney's going to get my Hulu subscription, but that's about it. I mean,
Even though Abrams is back for number 9.
I don't know. I don't think he's capable of saving that. I mean, following that is going to be
He
pretty
starts
strange.
series as really well, but his endings.
It's not a closer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, we're not sure. He never does it. So.
Yeah, I wonder why he's coming back. I wonder if that was the original plan.
No, I don't think it was. But he was asked to come back. This is all rumor. But,
the Ray. Daisy.
Daisy Ridley was going to quit the series because she didn't want to work with Johnson again.
Yeah.
And also Mark Hamill was not happy with what he did with Luke Skywalker,
Right.
though both of them walked back those statements later on. So
Well, yeah, they had to.
Well,
on the-
Mark Hamill walked it back, but then not totally.
yeah, exactly.
But then he
and
got killed off.
The internet remembered. There's like so many YouTube videos of him.
Any predictions for the 9th movie?
None,
The 8th movie ended without really any cliffhanger.
which is
No.
great. I mean, I think Star Wars.
Well,
if Star Wars is going to be an ongoing series, they can't be too tied to the past
I mean, you can say that. I certainly agree. Like,
I-
Star
yes, I
Wars is
can.
now
I
a
did.
world, a film,
universe.
a film universe. So you're going to see different people, and that's a good thing because it's not going to be so tied to one person's vision.
Yeah.
And if they're not hitting it out of the park with that vision, then it's not like they're ruining Star Wars. They're ruining that particular storyline. But this happens to be part of the main storyline. And so I'm surprised that they didn't end with some sort of teaser of what was going to come in the 9th movie. But I wonder, and this is probably a bad thing and probably destroys any fanboy credential I have. And it was something I was wondering while watching The Last Jedi, how many stories can you really tell in this galaxy? Like, what is really special about the Star Wars universe? And I'm aware there's a lot of books and the video games, Knights of the Old Republic, but there's certain things that people are going to want to see and that might limit the type of stories that you can tell. They want to see some sort of Empire, First Order with the Stormtroopers, or something like the Stormtroopers. They're going to want to see Jedi. So sure, you could set something in the Outer Rim, but what is special about the Outer Rim over any other science fiction series?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what the thing is. Like, what is Star Wars? And a lot of what is Star Wars is certain visuals.
I think there's a difference between what is Star Wars, the universe, and what is a Star Wars movie.
Right.
Because a Star Wars movie is that theme of good versus evil. And you need the great good, the Jedi, versus the great evil, the Empire. And yeah, at some point it's going to become really old and formulaic, if it's not already, perhaps.
Yeah.
But that said, there's a lot to the Star Wars universe. I mean, the role-playing game is fantastic.
But I love the Clone Wars, so I really like the stories that they're telling. But yeah, I just kind of wonder with Disney when they bought the IP. Well, now we have the IP. Does anybody have any stories they want to tell in it? And people are like, yeah, maybe continue from Return of the Jedi, sort of, instead of like having really fresh ideas. So maybe Rian Johnson getting his own trilogy where he's maybe getting free reign on that is a really good thing because we won't be tied to stuff.
Well, yeah.
And then maybe won't feel the need to just have a twist every 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Or a
Hopefully.
joke every 5
Yeah,
to make it feel different.
he was dealing with totally new characters, I don't think I would have minded. But, you know, when he was messing with characters that I'd been with since childhood, when it felt ridiculous, I think that was very punishing. So if he's got new characters and is doing something totally different, it's not going to feel like Star Wars, because I don't think he knows how to make something feel like Star Wars. I think even the prequels felt more Star Wars than this film.
Yeah, that's a good point.
yeah.
Where he's a good director. I mean, Looper and Brick are good movies.
Yeah.
But a good director doesn't necessarily mean you're a good Star Wars director, or at least in the main type of story. Certainly, you could tell like Rogue One is a different kind of Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
So even though he was doing all the twists and messing with the tropes, but he was still trying to make a Star Wars movie. So he's putting in a joke where maybe he shouldn't have put in the joke. Then maybe somebody who had just a better handle on Star Wars could have produced a very similar movie, but had the kind of pacing that we need, and the jokes would have landed a little bit better.
Yeah. I wonder if this maybe is adding a new book to the Star Wars library. Because you say the Star Wars movie, but there's been several different kinds. Like Rogue One wasn't a space opera or an action movie like some of the previous ones had been. It was a war movie. For that matter, Empire was a character drama. It wasn't an action or a space opera. New Hope was more space opera, and Return of the Jedi was more action-y. I think hopefully, and maybe I'm just being overly positive or optimistic here, but maybe it's just expanding what the Star Wars universe or what it means to be a Star Wars film. And maybe I hope that's the case too.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's like with different directors, I mean, there are going to be different kinds of Star Wars movies.
I hope so.
And it's going to feel less and less like Star Wars in a sense. It's just going to become a new thing.
If he's adding a new book, it's the Book of Mormon. It's not anything that...
Oh, man. But I still liked it. I really enjoyed it. And I've been spending the past, 2 hours we've been recording here with banging different parts of it. But I left the theater happy.
Well, I mean, that's good. Then you got your money's worth.
Yes.
Jeremy and I left the theater wondering if the other person liked it. Did you?
Yeah. It was like like a standoff. No, who's going to draw first?
But I didn't feel like a rage or anything like that. I didn't feel like it raped my childhood. And...
For me, I mean, Star Wars, because it's such an old kind of built-in memory, it's like mashed potatoes. It's this... It's a comfort food, It's simple. It doesn't. It's not going to do very much. It's not going to wow you. And Rian Johnson peed in my mashed potatoes, and I was so hungry, I ate it, and I can't believe I went through that experience, because it was just upsetting. I mean, maybe the prequels were like, instant mashed potatoes. They tasted funny, but that feeling, not having any of that comfort, not returning to anything familiar. And I don't want to, relive my childhood, but just have let's get closure to this thing that's been in my life.
I feel the opposite. I felt this was more Star Wars-y than the prequels were.
Really?
Really? Wow. Yeah. I thought the prequels were more ballsy or more risky than anything Rian Johnson did. I know that's not countering your point, but I think Lucas really tried to do something, and I liked what he added. I liked the different take on it. Yeah. And I know a lot of people don't like that. And I like the scale of it. I like the fact that it did feel really big.
That is very Lucas, yeah.
Yeah. No, this is not just a comment on The Last Jedi, but also The Force Awakens and, Rogue One. I don't think we needed any main Star Wars movies after Return of the Jedi. It's over. The Empire was defeated. Yeah. And you don't need to resurrect an empire to tell the same stories. So I didn't like A Force Awakens so much, and I just feel like
I can tell you guys keep getting the name wrong.
It's not called The Force Awakens?
It's The Force Awakens.
The Force Awakens. Okay, The Force Awakens, sorry. So, no, I've just accepted that I don't need to see a Star Wars movie every year. And I'm okay with that. Just like I don't need to see a Marvel movie
every month.
Every month, yeah. I'm okay with that. I mean, there's other movies I can watch.
Yeah. I saw somebody made a comment online. It was the Lucasfilm, Lucas in general. He's really good at world building, but not so much with story or character comparatively. But Disney's directors, J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson, are very good with character, but not as good at world building as Lucas was.
Okay, maybe Abrams. I actually don't mind Poe, Finn, or Rey. But I don't love Poe, Finn, or Rey. If there was one character that I would want to see more of, it would be Finn. But if I never saw Finn again in a movie, that's fine with me. He's not terribly quotable. Scenes don't really stand out. Same with Rey. I mean, she's serviceable. Poe, I mean, I actually didn't like his exchange with Kylo Ren. Not that I didn't like it, but I didn't think it was that great. So is this where I speak or you speak? But people loved it.
Yeah, that's, like you say, quotable. That's probably his lines are probably the most quotable ones in the series.
Yeah.
Going back to ridiculous, meaningless deaths, Phasma, So we
Oh,
didn't.
yeah.
We didn't have.
Yeah.
We had not.
How
much
did we
of her.
forget Phasma?
Right.
Yeah.
There's just like nothing of her
Is
in the
she
first
dead?
movie. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then she just and falls down.
Yeah,
and,
it's like,
yeah.
oh wow, they brought her back. Maybe they're gonna try and redeem what they did with her last time.
Nope.
Yeah, that shot though, with her when her armor's reflecting all the energy and
was
everything, it
cool.
was beautiful. And then just she goes down. But she got a chance to. The actress could actually look through the hole in her helmet, so we got to see the actual human inside that suit.
So
But
wasteful.
really,
On
weird.
J.J. and Rian Johnson's part, there's no point. Get rid of her.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, they did.
Yeah, we don't know what she is or
Right.
what's going on.
Interesting concept. Interesting actress.
Sorry, what is the concept? She's wears silver armor.
So the armor is made of, I can't remember what it is, but it's some kind of very special
Did you?
precious metal.
Is any of this introduced in the movie?
Of course not.
Right. Well, so then it doesn't
That's
matter.
what I'm saying. It's the concept, which they didn't introduce in the movie,
Okay,
was
okay.
wasted. Yes.
Yeah.
And it reflects blaster bolts.
Are you excited about the Han Solo movie? Or Solo, a
Yeah,
Star Wars story?
The thing that they said is the Lego movie guys that they kicked off the project, they were making it too funny. I think that would be the only thing to save it, is it would be kind of playful and jokey, and because a serious young Han Solo movie, not interesting at all.
Yeah. Part of the reason that I liked The Last Jedi is because it started taking Star Wars in a new direction. I love the old movies, but I don't need to see more of them. The Force Awakens was a fun romp, and maybe a necessity to reboot the series, but I didn't need to see A New Hope over again. And same thing, I didn't need to see Empire Strikes Back over again, and I don't think Last Jedi was that.
Yeah, there was certainly a lot of parallels.
Absolutely.
It was
No
salt.
doubt.
It was salt.
right from the opening crawl where it goes, and they're escaping the planet, and you're like, oh, this is so...
Yeah.
innocent.
Yeah, but it was...
About those salt troopers, boy, they were more useless than the sword troopers.
Yeah, it was your Chuck. I wonder who has more downtime.
Yeah, I was like, hey, is that a salt planet? No. Okay, I'll be in the cafeteria then.
Eating potato chips. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I want to see new Star Wars movies, so not very excited about the Han Solo thing, but yeah.
Yes, I've lost hope. That spark, I don't think is
Hope?
going to...
Yeah,
Oh.
just dropping them.
What you need is a new hope.
Yeah. Maybe there'll be a return. Yeah, I'm just not a pun guy.
Brilliant.
I'm trying to work Phantom Menace into
That was
a
gold
response.
Yeah, I'm excited for more Star Wars movies, but yeah.
How about merchandise? When you were watching The Last Jedi, was there anything you go, hey, that would be a cool toy?
No,
The
because
very
I've already
flammable bombers.
seen all of the toys at all the shops. You go into a month before the movie, there's no surprises. You can see everything that's going to be in the movie on sale.
You know what you can't see is kids around buying those toys.
Yeah,
It's all
yeah.
adults in Japan. I'd like to know, if people are listening and you're from North America, are kids actually still buying Star Wars toys? Because we're not seeing that in Japan at all. Well, thank you for joining us. If you haven't already chimed in on your thoughts on The Last Jedi online, please chime in on the comments below and let us know what you thought.
If you like the podcast, please subscribe and share what we've got. We'll also have a video version of this on our YouTube channel, so have a look at that.
All right, bye.
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 Drive-through RPG. We average 9 new titles a day. That's over 60 a week. And we've got well over 15,000 RPG titles online right now. Drive-through RPG. The one true source for RPGs.
Idle Red Hands, recorded in Kobe, Japan. See us online at www.idleredhands.com. Music provided by Tripod Jimmy, and the song was Roadkill. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.